and explain what those experiments are. All right. So how do you do the explanation? Is by doing a lot of reading and also your past experience with other courses like applied mechanics, strength of material, and also the theory of structures that you are learning now. All right. So this is kind of like a real world practical phenomenon. All right. You're going to observe a practical thing, which is the experimental labs, and then you're going to explain and describe in the form of a lab report. And then I'm going to assess your lab report if you truly understand what you have been learning before. All right. So before this, you guys are just learning about theory, right? You're given a set of questions, right? Like moment, couple, and everything, theory of structures, everything. They're going to give you a set of questions, and then you're going to solve it, right? Using maths, using theories and stuff. But now you're giving an experiment, right? So this is kind of like a real world. You're going to be given an experiment, and then you have to explain what those experiments are about. All right. So you have to do, if you have been weak on the previous courses, so you have to open back all the reference book and start learning again. All right. Because this depends on the experience that you have gained before in the previous courses, and also this course has a very close relationship with theory of structures. You guys are learning theory of structures this semester, right? Are you guys learning theory of structures this semester?
Yes, doctor.
All right. So that course is very important. You're going to learn about a lot about that course, which will be used to explain the phenomenon that you'll be observing in this lab, right? It's just like real life. You're observing a building, you're observing a bridge, or something happens, and you must have the engineering knowledge to explain those natural phenomena, right? You're already on a second year, so you have the sufficient knowledge to explain basic engineering phenomena. Like, yeah, for structures lab, this is basic structural phenomena. All right. So the course description is the student will be exposed to the testing procedure regarding structural analysis. The experiments will guide the students to understand the characteristics and properties of the tested materials. All right. So previously, during my time, we were given a guide, a manual, and so on. They showed everything. So we just follow the guide and so on, right? But for you guys, there's a new outcome-based education, kind of like a way how to do the lab in a new kind of way. So, right. So now everything is open-ended. It's up to you. All right. During the lab demonstration, the lab technician will show you how to do the labs, and then it's up to you how we're going to do it. Do you want to follow it? Do you want to change it? And then it's up to you to explain the lab reports as well, right? There's no guide, there's no procedure, there's no nothing. It's up to you. You're going to have to do everything from scratch, right? So I'm giving you a lot of independence to do the lab report and how you are going to explain the lab experiments. All right. So this is an open-ended lab. Okay. So these are the course outcomes that you are going to learn for the structures lab. Right. I think you can read this one by yourself. But basically, for each course outcome, you will be assessed for it, right? So for course outcome 1, you'll be assessed by test quiz. For course outcome 2, lab reports. Course outcome 3, peer teamwork assessment. And CO4 is observation, supervision, and monitoring. All right. So those are all tabulated here. So your lab report will be 50% in weightage, right? Doing it from week 6 to 10th. And then peer teamwork assessment is 10%. Okay, so peer teamwork assessment is where you assess your lab members. All right. So throughout your 14 weeks, you're going to be given a form, right? So this form is confidential. All right. So this form is where you assess your lab members. So if you think that your lab member is not doing so well, you're going to give them a low mark, right? But basically the ceiling is 10%, right? And then you're going to rate yourself as well. You're going to give yourself a 10 over 10, 9 over 10. It's up to you. But I'm going to cross-ref it with your lab members. All right. So if a lot of your lab members is giving you low marks for your peer teamwork assessment, then something is going on here. All right. So if you have a problem with your lab members and so on, one of the lab members is not contributing or something, this is where you give marks to your fellow members. All right. And this is what I'm going to see. If I can see that maybe something is wrong with your lab report, there's no collaboration, there's no teamwork, then I'm going to look at this peer teamwork assessment. What is happening actually within your team members. All right. But this is real life, guys. Eventually, you're going to be sorted into a group, right? And then you have to make it work as a group, because in real world, when you are working and so on, you cannot choose your group members as well. You're going to be put in a team where you don't really know who your member is, but you have to make it work, right? Because if the team doesn't work, then everyone will have low marks, right? But if one of the students are really not contributing and everything, you can let me know, and then you can give them low marks here, appropriate marks here in the peer teamwork assessment, right? So peer teamwork assessment is at the end, right? At the end of labs and everything, then you're going to fill in a form and you're going to submit to me. Each of you has to submit the peer teamwork assessment to me, right? And it is confidential. No one will know, only I will know, all right? The third one is we have a test quiz, 30%. So we have a quiz at the end of all the labs. I'm going to assess you by giving you guys tests. And lastly, observation, supervision, or monitoring, right? This is me and the lab technician, right? So we will be observing you guys throughout the lab sessions, right? So you have to make sure that you contribute to the discussion between your team members. I don't want anyone sleeping at the back of the class or not contributing, not participating in the lab. I don't want anyone to wear loose clothing. All right, there is a lab ethics that when you go to lab you have to follow. Right, you must wear shoes, you must wear long pants, and if you have long hair, you have to tie it down. All right, you have to wear appropriate clothing to go to lab. You cannot wear clothing that is too baggy. Has to be a nice fit to do your lab works. All right. So ethical lab ethic works. All right. So try to read up on that. What are the necessary clothing that you can wear to labs and so on. So those will be assessed from day one. From day one, you'll be entering the lab. The lab technician will be assessing you, right? And it's going to be 10%. Right, so OSM is everything from your attendance, your attire, how well you present yourself when going to labs, how you participate during your lab work. Are you participating or just looking at everyone doing work and you're doing nothing? Those will be assessed for OSM, and that's 10%. That will be me, but mostly the lab technician, Mr. Ruslan, and because Mr. Ruslan will be on the labs 24/7 during your lab sessions. All right. So anyone has any questions about the assessment methods? So only 4 assessments: lab report, the peer teamwork assessment, and then we're going to have a 30% test, and lastly, the lab technician will give you a 10% OSM marks. Any questions? Everyone good? Faham? Okay, good. So everyone okay with that? So this is the course schedule for our lab session, all right? But this is just a general one. So we don't refer this one for the lab schedule, right? So if you want to look at the detailed lab schedule, go to ITEL, this one here, 24-25 lab schedule and submission, all right? So this will be our lab schedule for this semester. All right. So now is week 1. So today is just the lab briefings. All right. Next week, we don't have any labs all up until Raya. All right. So we don't have any activity for this course right until after Raya, which is the 10th of April. This is where we start our lab demonstration. All right. So you will be assigned to groups from A1 to C3. All right. So depending on your group, please follow this schedule according to your group, right? So if you are in group A1, you only have to come to sessions where I put here the group A1 needs to come, all right? So A1 here, you need to come here, here, and maybe somewhere else, all right? You only need to come the designated sessions for you, right? You don't need to come every day, right? Depending on your group. So for the fourth week here, there will be lab demonstration only for this particular group, right? For A1 to B2. So if you're not in this group, you don't need to come for the lab demonstration, right? So the following week, there's also a lab demo. This is for group B3 to group C3, all right? Only those in this group need to come for the lab demonstration, right? So for 2 weeks, it will be just lab demonstration, okay? The lab demonstration will be done by Mr. Ruslan, but I will be there as well. So try to read up on the manual, the lab manual that I've put on ITEL. And then Mr. Ruslan will show you how to conduct the lab only once, all right? So remember, we have 4 labs. So during this lab demonstration, Mr. Ruslan will show you all how to operate all these 4 labs only once, right? So you really have to pay attention, either take notes or record the session or whatever you need to do, but everyone must pay attention. It's up to you how you want to divide the work. You have 4 members, so if you want to assign, okay, for example, Samira or Nur Shafika, you concentrate on test S1. Another one will focus on S3, S2, S4. So each one of you will be an expert on specific lab equipment, all right? Or if you want, you all can listen to Mr. Ruslan and try to take notes together for all 4 lab equipments, right? It's up to you, but he's just going to explain to you how to operate the equipments only once. And then after the lab demonstration from week 6 to week 10, then you are all on your own, right? Nobody is going to teach you how to operate those labs. Nobody is going to teach you the procedure and so on. It's up to you, right? You and your group members, right? So it's very important for you to come during the lab demonstration by Mr. Ruslan and pay attention, right? Because you're not going to do all 4 labs at once, right? For example, group A1 here, you're going to do lab S1 and S3 first. And then the next one, the next session that you're going to come is here, right? On 15th 5 at 2:32 to 3:30 p.m., right? Then you're going to do S2 and S4, all right? So there's I'm not sure, I think 2 weeks gap, 1 week gap there. So I hope you still remember. So that's why during the lab demonstration, I want everyone to take notes and try to remember how to operate the machinery, because after the lab demonstration, you guys are on your own. All right, but the lab technician will be there, but he will be assessing the OSM. All right, you're going to make sure how you're going to do the labs. Are you discussing with your team members and so on. Okay, so again, I stressed out during the 2 weeks lab demo here, please attend and please concentrate and take notes, right? I don't want you guys somewhere in week 9 when you're doing S2 and then you ask the technician and you ask me again, hey, how to operate the S2 machinery again? I forgot because the last lab demo was 3 weeks ago. No, right? You cannot do that. You will lose marks, right? During the lab demo, you have to come, pay attention, do whatever you can to collect the necessary information, write notes, record video, or divide amongst yourself, whatever that you need to do to try to understand how to operate the machinery. Okay, so these are the schedule, right? You only need to come according to your designated group, right? So this is the lab report submission. So refer table, right? So this is the lab submission due date, right? So for example, if you are in group A4, then you have to submit the S2 lab report on the 1st of May. and then you have to submit the S4 report on the 8th May, and then you're free on the 15th of May, and then you have to submit S1 on the 22nd May, S3 on the 5th of June, and so on. So just refer to the lab report submission table here, right? This is where you need, not everyone will be doing the same lab and submitting the same lab report. It's mixed, right? Depending on which group you are assigned to, right? For example, here, during 1st of May, group A1 will be submitting S1 lab report, but for group C, they are not submitting anything, not until the 15th of May, where they submit the first S1 group, S1 lab report, all right? So depending on your group, all right? So another word of advice for the lab report submission, please do not leave it to the last minute, all right? Because you only have like a 1 week gap to do the lab report. So after you finish for example, after you finish your lab report on Thursday, right? So the next lab will be next week, Thursday. That next week on Thursday will be the day that you need to submit your next lab report, right? Your lab report submission, right? So after 1 week, when we start the lab, during that lab session is also the day that you need to submit one lab report, right? So it goes on and goes on week and after week, right? So 1 week, you need to submit one lab report and do one lab. In the following week, you submit another lab report and then you do another lab. You go on for 4 weeks like that, right? So do not leave it to the last minute, because I don't want you guys to do lab reports on lab day, right? Because some students during Thursday, during the lab sessions, they're working, trying to finish the lab report for the previous session. No, you cannot do that, because if you do that, you're not going to pay attention for the current lab. If you don't pay attention to the current lab, then you're going to have a problem next week when you're doing the lab report for that lab. So it's just going to compile, and every lab report that you do eventually will not be good, and you will get low marks, right? So this is the lab submission schedule. So just follow it, all right? So the first submission date will be the 1st of May for group A1 to group B4, right? And then it's going to continue and continue weekly after that. You keep submitting one lab report after another. All right, so anyone has any questions for the lab submission and lab schedule? So you just look at this one, and we're just going to follow the lab schedule here and lab submission here. All right, so everyone good? Okay, understand? Okay, good. All right, so don't worry. This is a chance where you can try to score for this course, right? Because this is a lab course, you just need to attend lab and do a good lab report. If you do that, highly likely you will get an A. If not, you will get a B, right? Most likely students will get an A for this, unless you did a really bad job on doing your lab reports and not attending labs, right? Because lab report is different. You have to explain the experiment, and then you have to discuss the experiments, right? You cannot just give me value and data and not give any explanation or discussion or anything, right? You have to connect it with theory of structures. You have to connect it with applied mechanics or strength. You have to connect it with anything that is appropriate that you have learned before, all right? You cannot just give me data and just not say anything about it, right? You have to do something about it and discuss it thoroughly, all right? So that's it for the lab schedule submission. Oh yeah, and then this is your lab groups, all right? So this is your lab group that I've gotten from BPA, all right? This is, if you are not in any of the group listed here, please let me know. No, please let the class rep know, right? So class rep, compile all the names of the students who are not in any groups and then send to me, all right? So you have to check this one here and make sure that you are in a particular group. If not, let your class rep know, and then your class rep will compile all the names and give it to me, right? Then I will add you in any appropriate group here, right? Group A, Group B, and Group C. So after the class, I want you guys to please check if all your names are correct and you are in a particular group, right? If you're not in any group, let your class rep know. Okay? So that's it for the lab groupings. And then here is the lab materials, the lab manuals, and this is where you submit your lab report. So don't get mixed up, all right? If you are sending the S1 lab report, send it here on S1. If you want to submit to S2, here, teamwork assessment form, and so on, right? Don't mix it up, right? If you suddenly send S2 lab report here, this one S4, and so on, it will get me confused. And I might think you did not attend lab sessions, and I might give you 0 and so on, right? So please, group leader, you have to make sure and coordinate with your group members, right? Also, I forgot to mention to you guys in group here. So each one of you, each of the group here needs to find their own group leader. You need to choose a group leader amongst your own, right? And you have to give the list of leader to me by next week. All right. So look at this one, discuss among your team members, and then choose who your leader is going to be, and then send to the class rep, and class rep will give to me, right, by next week. Because the group leader will be the one that is going to coordinate the lab discussions, you're going to coordinate the lab reports, and so on, right? And naturally, the group leader will I will give the group leader higher marks than usual, depending on how they coordinate their team members. But if the team members is not doing so well, then everyone will get low marks as well. All right. So if you want to choose your team leader, make sure that the team leader is good and can manage everyone in the team, right? Because the team leader is the one who's going to find you when one of you are not attending. Then you have to find the member who is not attending, where is he, where is she, and so on, to come to the labs, right? Because you cannot start lab unless all the members are present, right? Only when all the group members are present, then you can start lab, right? So I've seen a group member, we have to wait, one group member who did not come, so they have to wait for 2-3 hours just to wait for that team member to come, right? So it's very not conducive, it's very difficult. So choose a team member that you know can coordinate within the team members. Yep, Marianne Lawrence, you have a question?
Oh no, I accidentally clicked it.
I see. All right. So choose a team leader and then discuss among your group members. All right. Make sure that everyone is disciplined enough to go to the lab session according to the designated time. Because remember, the designated time is very strict, right? So as you can see here, 2 to 3:30 p.m. is group A1, A2, A3, and 4. And then starting at 3:30 to 5, another group will be coming in. So if one of your team member is late or not coming in, then probably you will not be doing the lab at this session, and you have to do another session lab, and you have to discuss with Mr. Ruslan, the lab technician, when the lab will be open. You have to come again and do the lab. It's going to be a hassle, right? So make sure that at this particular time, everyone is coming on time, right? If not, you can give low marks for your team members who's coming late in the peer teamwork assessment. All right, so discuss among yourself, choose a team leader, and let me know. Let the class rep know. Class rep will let me know. Okay? That's it. Team leader, lab form. This is the lab manual. You can read by yourself. So this is the lab material, right? So the first one is the technical report coverage. I think this one is just nothing. It's just the cover page, right? So just follow the cover page. When you're submitting the lab report, just use this cover page in front of your lab report. And then the technical report guideline, all right? So this is the lab report guideline. So just follow this one, read it slowly, digest it, understand it, and draft your lab report revolving around this guideline here. All right. So just remember, everything is clear here. Every section has their own designated points, right? So abstract, 5 points. Introductions, 5 points. 5 points. Is your conclusion will be 6 points, and so on, right? And some of the section will be group work. Some of the sections will be individual work, right? So you do not, if it's group work, everyone can do the same thing. You do not have to do a lot for everyone. You don't, each of you do not have to do abstract. Everyone can just work together and prepare just one abstract, because this is a group work, right? Same with table of content, list of table, list of figures, and so on, right? Introduction, as you can see here, is 5 points. You can read it, what you have to do on the introduction section, but this is also group work. So everyone need to do only one introduction, right? Same thing with theory, group work, experimental procedure, group work, but the result is individual. So whenever you see individual part here, then in your lab report, everyone has to submit their own results and what their understanding of the result is, right? Who is going to compile? It depends on the group leader, right? Group leader wants to compile in everyone, or you can assign your group member task, right? Who will be doing this, who will be doing that, who will be doing that, whatever you need to do, right? I don't need to know that. That's between you and your team members. But at the end of the day, when you're submitting, only one lab report per group, right? But inside the lab report, for group assessments, you only need to submit one, right? But for the results for individual, this one, everyone needs to submit their own findings inside of the one lab report, right? As you can see here, discussion is also individual, 5 points. Conclusion is also individual, 5 points, right? But references is group work, appendices is group work, and everything else is group work, all right? Everything is 5 points, 6 points, and so on. But remember, this is another tip for you guys. This is what the other students did badly in the previous semester, right? Look at the points, right? For the abstract, just 5 points, right? Most of the students, they do a lot for the introduction, abstract, and so on. But you know what they didn't do so well? They didn't do the last part here, teamwork, evidence of meeting, face-to-face meeting. They only, in the lab report, they only include just one picture of them having a meeting and so on, right? This is a bad decision, because as you can see here, the teamwork here, the teamwork section is 10 points. It's greater than the conclusion, greater than the discussion. So it's a big point, right? It's a big 10 points here just for teamwork. So if at the end of your lab report, you're just putting one picture, 2 pictures, and just saying, we meet at this particular date to discuss this, you're not going to get the full 10 points. This is a very big 10 points for something that is, for me, it's considered bonus mark. You just have to put on pictures or make a diary showing me that you guys are actually meeting and doing some sort of teamwork stuff, right? So this is basic. This is like a bonus mark for you guys. If you don't try to score this one, it's a shame. But not a lot of people score this section here, right? Because most of the time, I don't know, maybe they did too much on the discussion and result. They have a lot of things to write. And then eventually for the teamwork, they just put one picture here and done, right? One picture is just what? Maybe I'll just give you guys 1 to 2 points, right? So you have to make a comprehensive evidence of meeting for you to get the 10 points and so on. This is group work, right? So not everyone doesn't need to submit their own meeting, right? Just as a whole group, everyone just compile and put it in one section only, right? So this is the assessment rubrics, how I'm going to assess you guys, X1, 2, 3 to 5, and so on. So this is a technical report example. All right, so this is the table of content example. So as you can see, the abstract is group work, so just one abstract. Introduction, theory, experimental procedure, just one, because it's group work. But for the results, everyone needs to submit their own individual results, right? So for this group, they even made it They even did more work to get more work, to get more marks. So they even included analysis of data here, right? They even included the analysis of data, then discussion, conclusion, and finally references, right? So you can see here, they stopped at references. They did not do the teamwork part, right? So they lost 10 marks just like that, right? But then they compensate it by making another subsection here called the analysis of data, right? So it's up to you. It's open-ended. You want to follow the guideline, you want to do more to get more marks, but when you do more to get more marks, don't forget the other sections as well that has higher marks, like uh, the teamwork evidence meeting, and so on, right? So you can refer here the table of contents, right? Group work, only one. Individual, everyone needs to submit their own results and discussion, right? But eventually, one lab report for one group only, right? And you have to submit it before the due date, the due date that we have agreed on the PDF that I've shown you guys before, right? So this is the technical report format. Uh, you need to have cover page, you need to have a margin, you need to have a UMS logo. And so this one you can read by yourself when you are preparing the lab report, right? So when you're preparing the lab report, please have a look and discuss with your team members regarding this, right? I don't need to know how, but you can divide amongst yourself. Maybe someone will be doing the abstract, someone will be doing the introduction. It's up to you. Or you guys want to meet once a week and do it together, the abstract, do it together, the introduction, and so on, right? But problems usually arise when you guys are trying to compile the lab reports. So please try to have an understanding between you guys when the team already decided, okay, at this particular date, I'm going to compile everything. Then everyone on the team members, please follow the team leader and submit all your results so that the leader can compile or other team members can compile as well, right? Because I don't want you guys to submit the lab report missing one student. And then that student will come to me again, sir, the lab report that my team has that does not have my data. This is my data. No, I'm not going to accept that. You have to go back to team, put it inside the lab report and submit it again. All right. But once you submit it again, if it's past the due date, then there will be deduction of marks because you're submitting past the due date. Right. So make sure that your team is working as a unit and everyone understands each other. Right. So after this, meet up with your team members, make a group chat or whatever, and discuss amongst yourself how you're going to do the lab report. Right? Maybe you guys can go through the guideline and read first and make sure you guys understood the points and whether it's group or individual work, right? Something like this table of contents here. Okay, that's it for the technical report. So this is the teamwork assessment form. So this is where you rate your team members, all right? So at the end of all the labs, at the end of everything, you will be asked to fill the teamwork assessment form here. So this is where you rate your members, right? So if you have a problem with any of your members, you can write here so I can read it and maybe make judgment on whether to give more marks, to deduct marks, or so on, right? So this is where you explain to me what is happening within your team, within your group, right? And please, if you're doing a good job, rate yourself high, right? Some of you guys, I don't know, maybe low self-confidence or anything. You did a good job, but then I don't know, you give yourself a 3/5. I don't know. Maybe you did something wrong by yourself. I mean, I appreciate your honesty, but if you do good work, then give yourself a high rating, right? Same with your team members. If they're doing a good job and so on, then give them a high mark. But for those who have team members, it is very difficult, does not come on time, does not work well with others. When you ask them to submit, when you tell the group members to compile everything one day before, and then they didn't follow the rules and so on. So that, yeah, then you write in this teamwork assessment here, so I can I can deduct or add marks according to your explanation here, right? But if you can, try to work as unit, make it work, right? Because this is like real life. In real life, when you will be working as an engineer later, you don't get to choose who you'll be working with, right? The boss would not care what interpersonal problems you're going to have with the works. They only want to know if the project is successful or not. So this is just like preparing you for a real life project, right? So try to make it work. But if you can't make it work, then you can always give them low marks and try to explain to me here what is happening within your team members. All right. But this one is confidential, and at the end of the lab session, at the end of 4 labs, once all 4 labs are done, then you do some self-reflection, do this and send to me, right? Everyone needs to send me this peer teamwork assessment, then I'm going to read it one by one. Okay, don't worry, it's confidential. I think that's all. Lab schedule submission, explain grouping. This is where you submit your lab. So this is your lab manuals, right? Only 4 labs. All right. S1 and S2 very fast. You can do the labs very fast. But for S3 and S4, it's going to take time doing it, right? So if look at your lab schedule, if you're doing S1 and S2, then okay, you can try to do it very fast. But for S3 and S4, it's going to take time, right? So please come early or please come on time, because the lab technician at 5 o'clock is going to go home. All right. So please come on time or early if you can, right? So group leaders, manage your team members well, because if one of the members is not coming, then you will not be doing lab for that particular day. You have to do another replacement lab sessions, right? Yeah, so I think that is all for the introduction, right? So anyone has any questions for the lab before we end today, right? So this is our lab schedule, right? So today is this one. Next week, we don't have any lab. The next following week is also Raya, so no lab. The lab demo will start on week 4 and week 5, right? Everyone needs to be there, because that's where you will learn how to operate the equipments. And after that, you're on your own, right? Starting from week 6 to week 10, you're going to operate the machinery on your own. All right, so make sure you come for the lab demonstration. Okay, so everyone, okay? Any questions? Okay, good. So I think that's all for today. I think I've explained our lab session. So now what you have to do is you have to go to the lab groups, check your name if your name is in here. If not, inform the class rep. Also choose your group leader, right? Once you've chosen your group leader, class rep, please compile the group leaders as well, and then let me know who is the group leader for all this group and who is not on any group. All right, who is the class rep? This batch is Shed, is it? Shed, yes. Shed, so please compile all the list of names, right? So who is not on any group and who will be the group leader, right? Just put it on your group chat and then compile it for me. Okay. So I think that's all for today. I guess I'll see you guys in 2 weeks time during the lab demonstration, only for this particular group, right? For this group, the following week, I'll be seeing you guys. All right. So I think that's all. I'll see you guys in 2 to 3 weeks time. All right. Right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
All right.
Doctor.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Bye.
Doctor, how about the attendance?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the attendance. Okay, let me get the attendance. Mhm. You guys have a group WhatsApp, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, okay. So you can help me send the attendance link to the group WhatsApp. All right.
Okay.
All right. So this is the attendance. Please spread the attendance. All right. Thank you.